So, good morning, good afternoon, evening, depending on when you may be watching this. I'm Jamie Muller, and this is the Grad Connection, where my goal here is to try to help graduate students more than just survive. I want to thrive. Just a reminder, I want to encourage you to subscribe to YouTube channel, connect in the Grad Connection private Facebook group, connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook. However, I realize I think a lot of people are finding this useful. I appreciate the comments and likes and those different kinds of things. It's not necessarily why I do it, but at least I know people are watching. So today's topic, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about pattern interrupts and the necessity of taking a break and taking vacation. At the end of this week, my family and I are doing our traditional summer camping trip. We kind of get away as a family, whoever can kind of come and do that. And so it seemed kind of forefront since I'm preparing for that, and it's probably good for me to remind myself of these things. But in addition, I wanted to be able to provide them to you. What I would start with is just talking about, I'm not a big believer in work-life balance. I'm a believer in work-life harmony. I think it's very difficult to try to quote unquote balance per se because seldom do I find that, at least in my life, seldom do I find that my work and my life are perfectly balanced. But somehow you have to find a way to harmonize these things. And really, it's a matter of making sure that you try to, if you have to sacrifice in one area, you play catch up and that you never just kind of forego an area. When I talk about the discipline in some of the earlier videos that I provided, that's really what that's about. It's not that everything is always in perfect balance because I don't think, I mean, we may strive for that, but I think it's very challenging to do that. So it's really about creating harmony. But when we think about vacations, first and foremost, let me say, I'm not talking about spending a truckload of money just to be able to go somewhere. I mean, a staycation can be just as effective as a vacation, in my opinion. But you still have to approach a staycation like you do a vacation. The problem is a lot of times folks will do a staycation, they won't want to spend any money or go anywhere, but they really don't. It doesn't create a pattern interrupt. It's just basically the same thing in a different place. And that's really what a pattern interrupt is about: creating a break from your normal routine, creating a purposeful disconnection from the things that consume our attention, the things that we focus on day to day. And it's also, quite honestly, just a period to create a break, right? To create a period of rest. And I think a lot of people don't take the time to do that, including myself. So a couple things that we know about, and I'll put a variety of references in the show notes for this. And again, when I say show notes, sometimes I can't include those in either LinkedIn or Facebook, but certainly if you're viewing this on YouTube, I provide links there. So if it all else fails, when I talk about putting stuff in the show notes, if you're wondering where they're at, it's basically sometimes LinkedIn or Facebook won't allow me to do that. But anyway, all right. So performance increases when we take breaks. That's certain. Research shows that. Literature shows that. And I think you could think about it as far as think about it in the just in the day to day routine. Throughout the day, you should have breaks where you get up and move around, going outside. I think that's one of the things that people have rediscovered as it relates to working remotely as a result of COVID is, you know, interrupts in our working day, maybe go let the dogs out, maybe take to go walk, maybe we spend 5 minutes outside just, doing whatever, just decompressing or whatever. I think that's people are finding that that's one of the reasons that they're more productive is because they're more apt to take a break in the middle of what they're doing, as opposed to a lot of times when we're at work, we just sit and we sit like I sit behind a computer all day doing stuff or whatever it is. Seldom do we take breaks. So I think that helps in the short term. In the midterm, if we're talking about like during a week, planning certain activities through the week that get you out of the work routine are important. But really, the point of this video is within the scope of a period of a year or whatever. I mean, you should be taking a week or two as you can. And again, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money, but it's really creating a pattern interrupt and treating it as a true vacation, a true break away from work. We know that, I mean, a lot of the literature talks about how our health certainly increases or improves. I mean, essentially, from the cardio standpoint, certainly heart disease decreases. And so there's literature that shows there's that, people that take more frequent vacations basically have less long-term health, chronic health issues. We also know that certainly creativity, productivity, resilience, focus, sleep, all of these attributes improve when we take breaks, when we take vacations purposefully. Matter of fact, I was kind of preparing for this video, and I ran across a Harvard Business Review article, which I'll put in the show notes. But they were talking about at least I don't know if it's just folklore, if it's actually true, but Lin Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton, conceived of it while he was on vacation. I know even in my own life, there are times where I'll go on vacation and I'll kind of mull over an idea, or creativity will spark, or a lot of times my wife and I talk about long term. Oftentimes when we go on our summer vacation, we'll talk about things that happened the prior year and where we want to go the coming year, right? So we kind of create these big plans, and sometimes those big plans, it's maybe they don't come to fruition, but at least dreaming and talking about those dreams and talking about those desires and talking about those things that we want, the things that we're happy happened, and the things. I mean, it creates space for those conversations, whether it be with a significant other, whether it be with kids, whether it be with family members, whether it be even by yourself. Having the time to step back from your life and think about those things that you're grateful for. Think about those things that are challenging. Thinking about things ahead that you want to approach in a different way. I mean, if you just keep pounding the pavement relative to your life, you never really create space to step back and, number one, reflect, step back and be grateful and thankful, step back and create plans, step back and rest. Um, so pattern interrupts and vacations. I think it's incredibly important. Again, the article I'm talking about, it's called "Thinking of Skipping Vacation." There's a byline to it, but I'll put it in the show notes. But certainly, as I think about coming off the past year with COVID, a year and a half for many, most people, and I'd say all people, need a break, because essentially, we've been operating in fight, flight, or freeze mode all year long, in crisis mode the entire year. Most people have, at least for the last year, if not year and a half. Um, and honestly, I think about in my life since about January of 2020, certainly, but even probably before that, I just it's been. I mean, most people say it tongue in cheek or joking, but it really does say something that most people can identify with, the idea that the last year feels like it's been about five, because our life has been so changed and so interrupted by COVID and all of the implications of it. So everybody, I would encourage you, whether you go away, we're going camping, and it's not an incredibly expensive trip. It may be more expensive than some, but find something that you can get away. So five suggestions I have. Whether you do a staycation, whether you do a true vacation and you go somewhere, five suggestions that I have. First of all, would be to unplug and disconnect. Most people don't do this. Um, Most people, I am the most people. When I go on vacation, I continue to try to keep up on email so that I don't come back to an inbox full. If you can get away, I'll admit that that's probably not the most healthiest. It's not the healthiest for me, but it works for me, right? But I would find some way to unplug and disconnect. For me, the unplug and disconnect is not having to get up at the butt crack of dawn and go to bed late and going from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. Right? That's kind of the disconnect for me. That's the break for me of being away. And so it's not that big a thing for me, but for some people, it may be that email's the thing that you need to get away from. But find some way to disconnect in ways that you can, even if you do a staycation. And that's again why I think a staycation, oftentimes, people plan a staycation and they do, at home projects, or they don't really disconnect. So, first would be to unplug or disconnect. Second, connect with friends, connect with family, connect with nature, connect with life, connect with yourself. And so making space and making time to do that, I think is critical. Because I look back and, I'm almost, actually this week I turned 50. And when I think about that, of how quick 50 years has gone, it's been, I remember when I was younger, people talking about, oh, stop and smell the roses, and, life goes very quick. And now I'm realizing how quick life. Um, Unfortunately, I'm not sure if you really realize how quick life goes until you maybe you get to 50 years old or whatever the age may be, but I'm starting to realize how fleeting life really is. And so I would encourage you to stop, and because connection, and going back to kind of what Brene Brown talks about in a lot of her materials, connection is what this is all about. Growing, expanding, and sucking less is kind of my mantra, but a part of that is connecting more, because that's part of what satisfies us. Number three, and I've already kind of said this, but I still want to say it again. This is my third thing. It's less about spending money and how much you spend or where you go and all those kinds. It's more about rest. That's mental, physical, and spiritual, and then the connection, that is the relational part, and creating space for that, taking time for as I said, going all the way back to kind of some of my first videos talking about the discipline, oftentimes we kind of dismiss or think unimportant, other aspects of our life, whether it be the physical or the spiritual or the relational or whatever. But all of those things are important. Number four, and again, I guess I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but number four, we get one shot at it. Take the time to slow down, enjoy living, and create some memories. Because at the end of the day, those are the things that are going to matter. When you're on your deathbed, and I'm preaching to myself as much as I'm preaching to anybody else when I say that. On your deathbed, you're not going to wish you did one more task or did one more thing or accomplished one more rung on the ladder or whatever the heck it is. It's going to be the relationships and the memories you create there. And then lastly, don't fall into feeling guilty when you get away. I'm just stopping to let that sink in. Don't fall into the trap of feeling guilty for taking time away. Your boss, your coworkers, subordinates, they will manage without you. Most people are feel like they can't get away because everything will just not function. No, that's just an excuse for you to stay connected. So I would encourage you to trust your colleagues, trust your boss, trust those around you, even if it's only a couple days that you get. And I understand that there are some people that work careers, and particularly after this last year, maybe being out of work or whatever, still you have to find a way to do this. And so I would encourage you to find a way to disconnect, to unplug, to connect with friends, family, and yourself, and take time to do just a little bit of rest. Um, at some point this summer, if it is not, whatever. And I'm saying that as much as to myself as to anyone. So I wanted to take today and just kind of this is kind of like what's in front of me as far as what I'm doing right now. A lot of times, I guess that whether it's selfish or not, a lot of times the things that I'm saying are probably things that I need to hear, things that I need to focus on, and so I'm just kind of following my gut as to what topics to cover. Now, given what I just said, that means that next week, and even though in past weeks, and I guess this is week 18 or something of these videos that I've been doing, generally if I know the next week that I'm going to be busy or whatever, I'll do the recordings of these. So I'm gonna practice what I preach. Next week I am not going to do a grad connection video. I will pick it back up the following week. I'm just going to simply follow my own advice and take a week off even from doing these videos, because I am going to go disconnect, go be with family. I'm going to go be with my thoughts, and I am going to rest. And so I would advise you to do the same. So hope you have a great day, great rest of your week. This is Jamie Muller signing off from the Grad Connection.